Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs. Parlons de la France. C'est au groupe I à la Coupe du Monde. Hi, everybody. I'm Bruce Marshall. Let's talk about France. Let's talk about Group I here in the World Cup, kicking off June 11th in Mexico City. And Group I is what I think maybe the toughest group that I see in the World Cup. Group of death, maybe, but I think it's the very toughest group we're going to see of the 12 in the first round of the World Cup. So let's get to that in just a second, and we'll talk about all the teams and a little bit more about France because they are the favorite in the group and one of the favorites in the tournament. So we'll get to Les Bleus in just a moment. First of all, though, a couple of quick housekeeping reminders. As always, don't forget to click that subscribe button on your screen there. That gets you all of our Wager Talk TV videos. Also, don't forget, World Cup, like we say, kicks off June 11th down in Mexico City and goes all the way through July 19th, the final at the Meadowlands in New Jersey. We have a special World Cup All Access pack for me. All of my World Cup picks, just $149, 5+ weeks of soccer picks. There's 104 matches, biggest World Cup ever. And my All Access World Cup pack, just $149, all of my picks all the way through Copa Mundial. Okay, let's take a look at Group I. We mentioned France a second ago, but let's run down the rest of the group here. We've also got Iraq, we've also got Norway, and we have also got Senegal. So this is a very interesting group, and it's a very dangerous group too, I think, and one that I think will see a third team advance into the knockout phase. Remember, 8 groups out of the 12 will have their third place team advance on to the knockout phase, and I think this group is going to be one of those. Now, of course, we're going to talk about France at the top, and you can see from the price here, they are the favorite in the group, but, at that price, minus 250, that's not quite as heavy a favorite as we see Spain, Argentina, some of the other groups. And I think that basically comes down to this being such a difficult group. And that's what France, though, has to navigate here. Now, regardless of the group, I'm not sure I'd be that bullish on France now. Anyway, I have some questions, and I wonder. It basically comes down to Didier Deschamps, the coach, and I think he just plays a little bit too much with the handbrake on. Now, I do admit, who am I to question Deschamps? He's got a World Cup win in 2018. He has got a World Cup runner-up in 2022. More than I'll ever do managing France's side, but I can't help but think, watching France, that they aren't quite playing to full capacity. And it reminds me a lot of how Gareth Southgate managed England, and a little bit how Mikel Arteta maybe managed Arsenal. We just saw them go out in the Champions League final. I mean, they win, but I think they're a little less than they could be because they're just a little bit too conservative. And we saw this with France recent tournaments, even that final against Argentina. They really weren't doing much until right at the end, things opened up and Mbappe got involved. And all of a sudden they forced overtime and they were really unfortunate not to win. But 2 years ago at the Euros, a lot of people thought they were the best side there, but they disappointed throughout the entire tournament in Germany, got all of the way deep into the semifinals against Spain, ought to a 1-0 lead. Then they sort of went into a shell. Next thing you know, Lamine Yamal scores. Spain gets back ahead 2-1 before intermission, and that's how the match ended. So a little bit of a disappointment there for France, just like it was in the Euros in 2020, which were played in 2021. But remember in the knockout phase, Switzerland with Jan Sommer saving Mbappe right at the end of the shootout. Switzerland advances, France goes out. I just don't know that Deschamps utilizes all the attacking riches that he has. It's worth noting, though, this is his swan song for France. This will be his last tournament. Zinedine Zidane, the great Zidane, the great French player. Of course, he won Champions Leagues at Real Madrid, long discussed as the successor to Deschamps. Well, he will be the successor after this tournament. They're actually looking forward to that in Paris. So we will see what goes on here with France. But a couple. So, and again, I'm a little bit reserved on France right now. And as far as Mbappe goes, I know how good he is and how many goals he scores. But look, I mean, he won that tournament 2018. Yes, when he was a teenager, still a teenager in 2018, France won the World Cup. He hasn't won a big tournament since. They've gotten, like we said, to the finals in 2022. But even at the club level, PSG and the last couple of years at Real Madrid, very disappointing for him. So he hasn't won anything since. I've got some questions about France. Now, as far as best bets go, I think there are some opportunities, though, in this group phase for a wager here. And the one I like the most is in this group for France, Norway to finish 1-2. Very fair price, minus 120 on that for a likely finish, I think. So I would make that my top recommendation out of the group for France. Also, for a little bit bigger price, Dembele, we talked about him. The Ballon d'Or winner, Ousmane Dembele, scored big goals for PSG. Like I said, Ballon d'Or holder to be the top scorer for France. This is a must win, plus 500. Now, that's looking away from Mbappe. Everybody's loving Mbappe here, but I think Dembele can do just similar things there and maybe become the real target man in the tournament. We will see. I think that's a pretty good price. Also, to go out at the quarterfinals, actually, it's the same price to go out at the last 16 at plus 300. If this tournament unfolds the way I think, it would probably be Germany in the last 16 and the Netherlands in the quarterfinals. They may have a better chance to get past Germany. They would be favored there. They'd probably be favored over the Dutch as well, but I don't think they get past the Netherlands. So I'd say out at the quarterfinal plus 300 might not be a bad option as well for Les Bleus. Okay, let's look elsewhere in the group here. How about Norway? Very, very dangerous side here. The win price in the group, interesting, plus 275. That may be worth a look. I think there's another better option there for Norway. But first of all, real quickly, what are we going to look for? Goals, lots of goals. They scored 37 of them in qualifying. A lot of those, 16 of them, Erling Haaland from Man City, big time scorer. They are clicking at the national team side. Listen, they can present a lot of problems, especially for teams with smaller backlines. With Haaland, 6'5", Alexander Sorloth, Atletico de Madrid for Diego Simeone this year, turned into a very good target man for Atleti. Those two up front are going to be really heck on teams on set pieces, corner kicks, and things like that. They could be very difficult, but a lot of firepower here. Martin Odegaard, Arsenal, pilot at midfield. There are a lot of accomplished guys at top European sides on Norway. I think they're very dangerous. They can score all those goals. Now, defensively, I think this is their Achilles heel. But I do think all those goals, the best bet for Norway, I see, is for the team to get over 7.5 goals in the tournament. That's at even money. The way these guys score, it might only take 2 matches. I do think they're getting into the knockout phase, and I think they get all the way to the last 16, where I think they would go out there. So there's what's the price there? Plus 260 or so to get them out at the last 16. I think they get that far, but I do think over 7.5 goals is the best way to go for Norway. Let's talk about Senegal. I think this is another dangerous side here. I expect Senegal to advance into the knockout phase as probably the third place side here. This might be the best African side here. And I like, and that lends into one of my top recommendations for Senegal as the top African side, the furthest advancing African side, plus 350. I think that's a good bet. Remember, we saw these guys at AFCON. They won it supposedly in December. That was quite a controversy there with Morocco. It's been tossed around in the court since, but nonetheless, they're dangerous, and they have got some accomplished players there. How about Sadio Mane? We remember him from Bayern Munich, and he's been in the Saudi League the last few years. Liverpool before that, 2018 Champions League final, scored the equalizing goal in the second half against Real Madrid. Liverpool ended up losing that match, but Mane has stepped up in big situations before. Liverpool, Bayern Munich, the Saudi League, like I said. Sarr from Crystal Palace, attacking midfielder. Listen, Senegal, I think, is the best African side here. And I think they will be a good bet to be the top finishing African side at plus 350. So I would definitely look at that. And also to reach the final 16, you get a plus 250 on Senegal. I think it's very possible to get that far. So a little higher price there, but I think those are both worth a look. Finally, we get to Iraq at the bottom. This is going to be a very tough go for the Iraqis here. I don't think they're terrible. They showed something in qualifying. Graham Arnold is the coach. He took Australia to the last 16 at the last World Cup. So he does know his way around the World Cup, but this group is just very tough for Iraq. The question we have about the Iraqis is, can they get something out of the group? Can they squeeze a result out? I think it's possible they do. And if they can land on just 1 point at the end, and that's where they finish, and I think it's possible, plus 275 on the price. If I'm going to bet anything on Iraq, that might be it. I think they're in trouble in this group, but I don't necessarily think they're going to get wiped out and lose all 3 matches. They might squeeze out a draw in there somewhat. Anyway, we will see what happens. This is going to be a fun group. Group of Death in Copa Mundial. Okay. Like we mentioned, as always, you can click that comment button on your screen right there. Love to hear from you. And don't forget, special World Cup All Access Pack. All of my picks through the World Cup, through the final July 19th, just $149. We'll be back with more World Cup previews as we get closer to the kickoff of the tournament, June 11th. Okay, so until next time, that's a goodbye from me.